This content is for educational purposes and also to create dialogue across cultural boundaries and respect for those cultural boundaries. With that being said, what's banging, YouTube? It's the OG Bloodshot Red back with another one. I know I've been gone for a minute, man, but man, I got a job. You know, I ain't monetized. I can't sit around the house and make videos after videos after videos, you know, and wait for them checks to come in. I got to go out there and get it, man. You know, I got to go out there and grind. You know, I work 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. You know, I got a family and whatnot, you know, and so I got to provide for them. And I'm blessed. I did 30 years in the penitentiary, man, and got out and got a job within a month. And so, you know, man, I'm not complaining at all. So with that being said, let's get into this content. For all of those that are new to my channel, this being the first time you ever saw me or ever heard of me, I would refer you back to my older videos. I got like maybe 11, maybe 12 videos up. Kind of put you up to speed, let you know who I am and how I got here at this particular position that I'm in right now, and you know, just give you a little understanding of me and you know, where I came from and whatnot, you know. So you know, man, this is a prison content platform, you know, and I talk about prison a lot. And I talk about prison because I spent so many years in prison, 30 years, man. I spent pretty much more time in prison than I did in the free world. So, you know, I mean, I actually became a man and matured and you know, just wise and everything inside of prison. So I talk a lot about prison. If I had did that in the world, then I would have been talking about that, you know, the things that I went through in the world. But man, all my experiences for the most part that I learned from and grew from was in prison. And so I just hope that you know, you guys enjoy the content that I drop about prison. And this right here is another one about prison, but it does cross some boundaries into the free world, as you can tell by the thumbnail. Okay, I'm gonna start off with a story though. I'm gonna start off with a story and get from the story into the content. This was around maybe 2013, 14. I was on Ferguson unit and I was in administrative segregation. You know, we in SEG, you talk a lot over the tier with other inmates because you really don't have any interaction with anybody. You know, you in the cell 24 hours a day sometimes. Other times you in there, you know, 22 hours a day. You get 2 days outside, you know, in a little old cage, you know, and work out or whatnot. So a lot of, you know, communication and friendships or whatever, or associations is built over the tiers. And this particular, you know, content that I'm talking about right now is one of those that was built over the tier. A guy had got moved in on the tier. His name was Rascal, and me and another guy named Third Ward, we used to, we used to kick it over the tier. You know, we would play chess and whatnot. And I don't know, one of those days, I can't really remember how Rascal, you know, kind of, you know, got into our conversations, and we kicked it over the run. You know, we all laughed and talked. You know, we talked about rap music. We talked about, you know, magazines, you know, articles that we had read or whatnot. You know, just the simple everyday dialogue. And you know, administrative segregation. And so it was probably I never had got a chance to see Rascal. I will say this. All my time in prison, I had never heard of a black guy go by the name of Rascal. I mean, you know, you got certain nicknames that are associated, you know, puppets and rascals and things like that, you know, are associated, from my experience, with Hispanic gang members. But at this particular time, I was under the impression that this guy was black. So, we talked over the run, and he used the N-word real heavy. He used the N-word at certain, times in this conversation that was like, really, he didn't even have to use the N-word. It was like he was overcompensating using the N-word for whatever reason he felt that he needed to use the N-word. And, it wasn't with the hearty or, his, the way he spoke and things like that, it sounded like he was black. And my impression was that he was a black guy. Though, the name Rascal did kind of, put up a little question like, damn, I ain't never heard no black dude named, Rascal. But anyway, him, myself, and Third Ward, man, we would stay on the tiers, just talking, man, about music and magazines and articles that we had read, just politics, whatever it was, man. We just had a real good low, rapport going with, the three of us. So one particular day, they call, rec yard, and in SEG you have individual cages, so you're in, rec by yourself. You're not in there with anybody else. So I was in the cage, and I was out there with first Rascal stayed on a different tier. I stayed on the third tier, and Rascal stayed on the second tier, so I had never gotten a chance to see him. So I was in the cage because they started on the third tier. I was in the cage on the yard first. And so, this guy walks by, he's real tall, mouth full of gold teeth, but he's obviously Hispanic though. And he went by and said, "Hey man, what's up, Bloodshot?" And I was like, "Hey man, what's up?" I said, "Who was that?" As he passed by. And he said, "Man, it's Rascal." And I was like, "Damn, nigga." I said, "Man, I thought you was black." And he said, "Hey man, don't disrespect me like that." So by this time he was all the way down the, walkway, so I didn't really get to get into any kind of conversation with him. So I was like, "Man, this dude an essay?" I'm like, "Man, I thought this fool was black the whole time." I'm just really tripping because he sounded like he was black. And it wasn't one of those where he was like, you could tell he was putting on. It was like something that was extremely natural in how he talked. So it was obvious that he grew up around, some black people, from the cradle, because it was authentic. And so, we did our rec time. We came back in, we took showers or whatnot, and we was back in the cells. And so I just, I called Third Ward, right? And I was like, "Hey, look out, Third." And he's like, "Yeah." I say, "Hey, man, Rascal, an essay." Oh, wait, let me say this. When he passed by me on the yard, and I told him I thought he was black, he had made the comment that don't disrespect him like that, right? So when I told Third, I said, "Hey man, man, Rascal, an essay." He said, the same thing. "Hey man, don't disrespect me like that." So now I'm kind of baffled. I'm kind of baffled. I'm kind of tripping. I'm just gonna keep it, just keep it 100, man. I'm kind of tripping. When I said you sounded like you was black, you said don't disrespect you, and now when we said, we thought you was an essay, that you was an essay. Now you saying don't disrespect you. So, I brought that to the table. I'm like, well, you told me on the yard when I said I thought you was black, don't disrespect you. Now that I'm saying that you an essay, you saying don't disrespect you. So what are you? And he was like, "Nah, man, I'm just me." And I'm like, "Okay, so explain that to me. What does that mean?" He said, "Nah, man, I'm just me, man. I'm just Rascal." I said, "Hold up." I said, "What is your ethnicity?" And he's like, "Well, man, I'm Mexican, I'm Hispanic." I said, "Okay, so why would you get, upset when I referred to you as I thought you was black because you talk like you black, and then you got offended when I said that you was an essay? Explain that to me." And he was like, "Man, I'm Hispanic, but I'm not black, and I ain't trying to act like I'm black." And so I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not making no sense to me. Your ethnicity, your moms, your dads, and your ancestors and all of that type of stuff are Hispanic, they Mexican. And I say, you talk, your dictation, your tenor, your words, everything, you sound like a black dude. And I'm pretty sure you've heard this before. I say, why would either one of those that I said that I thought you was black or call you an essay, which is a common term that's used, in prisons, why would you be offended by that? He say, man, because I mean, I'm just me, man. I just talk how I talk, man. It's just me. It's just how I was raised or whatever. And for me, I'm not questioning that part. I'm not questioning that part because I know a lot of Mexicans who grew up, just like in New York, Puerto Ricans and things, who grew up around black neighborhoods or around black communities from a young age, and they pick up the dialogue, they pick up the tenor, they pick up all of these different things, dictations and things like that. And so, they sound that way. But that does not take away from who they are ethnic wise. So, and so I was kind of getting a little defensive because he was running around in circles, and so I was like, I mean, you're not making no sense to me. I say, man, you use the word, you use the N word, and you use it in the right tissue. It's not sounding offensive of anything, but I'm not understanding why you are offended by me, saying that I thought this or I thought that. I say, man, I mean, any two ways about it. If there was a black guy on a tier, and, he was on the tier and he was saying, hey, vato, ese, hombre, que onde homes, the first thing that somebody that was not black or even somebody that was black and they found out that this guy was black would say that he's trying to sound like a Mexican or he sounds like a Mexican, regardless if he's putting on or regardless if he grew up in these areas. It's only natural that we say these things. Damn, man, you sound like an essay, man. I thought you was an essay. Oh, damn, man, you sound black. I thought you was black. And there's no reason to get offended by it. It's obvious that you sound like this, and this ain't the first time that somebody told you this. So we get into this long conversation. And I was asking him, why does he use the N-word? And he was like, to me, telling me, I mean, it's just a word to me. And I was like, hold up. So using the word nigga, and I'm going to say the word, man, because it's for educational purposes, man. We all grown-ups. So we gonna make a spade and an ace and we gonna lay everything out. So I asked him, I say, man, using the word nigga, regardless if it's with the hard ER or without the hard ER, using the word nigga to you is just a word. And he was like, yeah, man, it's just a word. It's just a slang. And I say, and that is the main reason why you should not be using it. And he was like, why? I say, because for me, there is a history behind that word. Slavery, bondage, murder, discrimination, it's a slew of things behind that word that affects my people, that offends my people. And I told him, I said, for us, when we use the word, I say, I got uncles and stuff that don't like us to use the word. I got older uncles that come from a generation to where that word was not, used amongst black people. And I understand that the generations that came after that, we kind of used that word as a term of endearment, or we took the negative aspect from it, from, the people who coined that phrase to identify us. And we kind of embraced it as a term of endearment. We kind of like took the power away from it from those people and used it for ourselves. And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that that's right. But I am saying that it referred to us, so we pretty much can do with it what we want to do with it. It's kind of like the word wetback. And like I said, we speaking bluntly here. And I don't mean any disrespect. But if I'm going to use the word nigga, I'm going to use the word wetback too to, make my point. It's like the word wetback. I've heard Mexicans in prison refer to each other that just by joke. Wetback. Oh, man, look at this wetback. Oh, this is Ohio, man. This is Ohio. Things like that. But I personally would never cross the line. Jokingly, I don't care how cool I am or whatnot, with somebody from Hispanic or Mexican heritage and use that word wetback. it's out of line for me. I know we use it in music. We see a lot of things in music, but that does not give someone outside of our race the right to use that word, regardless if you listen to our music. You know, pretty much, Mexicans, whites, and blacks have certain words that were at one time offensive to use, and they have coined it as a slang within their own community. I mean, you look at the white guys, peckerwood or wood or cracker. These were terms that black people had used to define them in a disrespectful term, and they turned it around. And now you calling somebody a white dude a wood, that means he's solid. You call a dude, when we use the term cracker, we use it as somebody that was square, white, and salty than a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So these terms were disrespectful, and they have turned these terms around to use for themselves as a term of solidarity or a term of being solid or stand up or, respected. So same with the Mexicans, they have terms, like essay and things like that, that they have turned around to use as terms that, fit what they want to call one another respectively. And so with these type of things, we still cannot cross a line and use those terms referring to those people because they use it amongst themselves. I don't care if they put it in music. I don't care if they put it in movies. We do not cross that line and use those terms, regardless of how often we hear those people use those terms. And so back to the topic, we were having a real good dialogue, me, Rascal, and Third. And so I just told, he kept asking me, well, why can't I use it? Man, why can't I use it? And I told him, I said, okay, I'm going to give you a prime example. If we're sitting in the day room, man, and just say, for some strange reason, one of the Aryan Brotherhoods or one of the, Aryan circles or whatever it is, they just stand up and just, yell out, man, I'm sick and tired of all these niggas in this day room, whether he use a hardy or whether he use a nigga, the term nigga. Are you going to feel offended? And he's like, no, I'm not going to feel offended. And I'm like, why are you not going to feel offended? He say, because he's not talking to me. And I say, that is the primary reason why you should not use that word, because it does not affect you the way that it affects me. If he stands up in the day room and he says that, every black dude in that day room gonna stand up and gonna smash gas. But you, on the other hand, who have not gone through the persecutions that we have not gone through the bondage that we have not gone through the murders and lynchings and stuff that my people have no cultural connection to that word. It is just a word to you. It's more than a word to us. Just like the word wetback is more than a word to you. How would it sound for blacks to walk around, whether it be in the world in the penitentiary, say, man, what's up, wetback? Yo, what up, wetback? Referring to another black man as a wetback. It makes no sense. I don't care if you put it in music or not. It has no connection to me. And I understand that it is more than just a word. It is a term that is disrespectful to Mexicans. And I respect that. My early years in prison, and this is not what I said to him, this is just some more dialogue. My early years in prison, Mexicans was Mexican, man, and they held themselves in a high regard. They had a term, respect for respect. And that meant that, you show respect and you will receive that same amount of respect back, and if somebody said something to you that was offensive, it ain't got to be the N-word or anything like that, but just said something offensive to you and you addressed it, then, you would get that respect back for respect. But in these generations that have come over the years while I was in prison, I saw that in the Mexican culture, in the white culture, and also in the black culture, that there was, that respect level had dropped dramatically. Blacks the respect that we had for ourselves dropped dramatically. Whites, the respect that they had for themselves dropped dramatically, and the Mexicans, the respect that they had for themselves dropped dramatically. Coming in, referring to one another, man, what's up, my nigga? What up, nigga? Things like that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I got in a lot of fights, because you got to understand, I'm a lot older than those guys, and I was set in my ways. And these young generations, because I went into prison in 94, so around 2005, 2006, when these guys were coming in, who were babies, probably not even, in the cradle when I came to prison, were coming in with this whole new, attitude, this whole new, dialogue with one another. And I got into a lot of fights because they just felt that it was their right to use it. And like I said, I understand that it's in music. And I understand that, it's in TV and it's in movies and things like that. And it sounds cool, but it does not pertain to you, because it's not just a word to us. It's not just a word to us. And if you were cool with our culture, like you say that you're cool with our culture, then you would respect that. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts about that. If, I look, I understand. Some of y'all grew up in black neighborhoods, ate at the table with blacks. Blacks ate at the table with you. I totally get all of that. But because you grew up with us, because you share parts of our culture, does not mean that you have a right to that word. And if you are, united with us, if you are, sympathetic to us, then you would respect that. Let me give you an analogy. Women sit around with each other all day and call each other bitches. Oh, bitch, you better bring my shoes back. Oh, bitch, where my purse? I let you use my purse. But let a man call her a bitch. It is totally different. It's totally different. And we know this and we understand this. And they know this and they understand this. And we respect this, because when we use that word, we use that word in a context that is offensive. And it's the same way. And even if we're not using it in a term that is offensive, we cannot dictate to that person how that person receives that. Because that person is receiving that. We're not receiving that. And it's the same way when somebody says something disrespectful to us. That person cannot dictate to us, oh man, I ain't mean no disrespect. I took it as disrespect. It was disrespectful to me. And see, these are the type of things that we need to understand. And I'm going to say this too. I thought long and hard about, how did this transition ever, how did it ever come about to where races outside of blacks started using the N-word? I was just like, where did this ever come from? How did a Mexican guy associate himself with that term? That, was a term that has a historical, centuries, of abuse and degradation and disrespect. How did that? And the only thing that I can come up with is, the music, just, the rap music. We use that word. We took that word from our oppressors and we turned that word around and we used it as a word for us, to establish us as an immovable object, as a foundation. And I know it's going to be some older black people that's not going to agree with this, but it is what it is. It is what it is. We took that word from our oppressor to where it no longer held any significance in the way that they were saying it to us. And we took it from them, and we use that word now. And is it right? Is it wrong? Man, that's up for debate. But it is wrong for anybody outside of our race to say it. And that is not up for debate. That is a fact. We say things to one another black people, we say things to one another just within black communities that if somebody outside, and it's not even the word N word, but it's just things that how we shuck and jive with one another inside, our culture. If somebody outside of that culture said it, they're going to get a fat lip. It just is what it is. And we need these other cultures to totally understand this. You are not black, you are not African American, and you don't want to be black. You don't want to be African American, but you want everything that we have. And we're not going to give it to you. We're not going to give it to you. And we need you to understand these things, man, But to go back to my topic that I was talking about with Rascal, he just felt in his heart that there was because he had no intent of ill will or disrespect to us, that it was, pretty much okay for him to say it. And I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. You can say a word, with all the love and all the respect and that you could muster and to somebody else, and it could come off as disrespect to them. And if those people ask you, man, don't say that to me again. And it is your duty, if you respect that person, if you have respect for yourself, to honor that, man. It's just that simple. When the Mexican OT, came out and made that comment, I'm gonna use that word, what you gonna do about it? That brought a whole different meaning to what he said and why he said it. When now you got Tekashi 6ix9ine, he piggybacking off of what this fool said, I'm gonna say what you gonna do about it. Just the blatant arrogance of a person saying that, that's disrespectful in itself. Instead of just saying, man, I understand what y'all saying or whatever, man, but I'm not meaning it in that manner. I'm saying it in a cultural, in a proper cultural way. Man, I understand it, but they not saying that. They're not saying that. They're saying, man, what you gonna do about it? And in any other context, if a dude bump into you, you say, damn, man, you ain't gonna say excuse me. Say, nah, what you gonna do about it? That's a confrontation right there. Dude, step on your shoe and don't say excuse me. What you gonna do? If a dude say something about your girl and you say, man, you gonna just disrespect me like that? Yeah, man, what you gonna do about it? In all of these different scenarios, we would understand across cultural boundaries. I don't care if you black, white, Mexican, Asian, or whatever. We would understand these cultural boundaries. But when it comes to this word, there is no understanding on who should use it and who should not use it. And so, I just want y'all to think about this, predominantly, man, the Hispanic community, man, the Mexican community, man. I want y'all to just respect this, man. How would it look to you if blacks went around saying, what's up, wetback? What's up, Mexican? What's up, Bessie? Hey, ¿qué onda, Holmes? How would that make you look? How would that make us look to you if you saw us walking around? You be like, man, these fools some clowns, man. Man, them dudes ain't Mexican. Man, them dudes black. Why they saying that word? Why they using those terms? And that's kind of how y'all look to us. Y'all not black. Y'all not from the struggle that we came from. Y'all got your own struggles, and we got our own struggles. It don't mean that we can't unite and we can't support each other. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, historically, the things that took place in Mexico and you guys, and y'all's culture and y'all's family and y'all's heritage is different from ours. And it just, across that, man, does not make any sense whatsoever, man. So I just wanted to put that out there, man, today, because it's real big out here in society right now, and people been talking about Texas, how the, Hispanics out here use the word nigga, and disrespecting blacks and not adhering from it when, asked to or whatnot, man. And I just wanted to put that out there, man. And, man, y'all get in them comments, man. Y'all get in those comments and give me some feedback on how you feel about this. How you feel about, I don't care what race you are. I don't care what race you are. But I do ask that you keep it respectful in the comments. And just give me some dialogue, man, and let me know how y'all feel about this. With that being said, what's banging, homie? Yeah. Holla.